Got Bobo Dread in the house. How are you doing, buddy?
Well, go on. Greetings, Brecky.
Bear with me. I am just getting our audio stream set up using some audio gear that I'm not that familiar with. All right, let me send a message to everybody else. Oh, we've got Amanda as well. Welcome, Amanda.
Thanks for hosting the room.
Of course, of course. All right, hold on. How's this working? Got the levels checked. All right. I'm going to attempt to try something real quick. Let me see if I can find this.
Hey, Amanda. I heard a lot of good things about you. Great to meet you.
Good to meet you as well. Look forward to nerding out a bit with you, Dread.
Nice.
So for those of you who are new to Beginner Bitcoin Q&A, this is Beginner Bitcoin Q&A. We will be answering all your Bitcoin questions. We try to keep them more beginner. Don't come in here asking about Taproot. We can maybe talk about it on the surface level, but this is a resource for those who are new to Bitcoin, looking to learn. If you're new to Cafe Bitcoin, go ahead and tap on Cafe Bitcoin at the top left. You can join the club. You'll get notified of all these events. The the slate of events is growing by the day. We just added Bitcoin Pakistan today, which is super exciting. We actually have a calendar set up and a whole bunch of resources, which you can find at cafebitcoin.club. So some of those events, every morning we have the topic du jour, usually starts around 6:30 in the morning Eastern time. We've got these beginner Bitcoin Q&As on Mondays and Thursdays. On Wednesdays, we have the Lightning Lab, which is super exciting. The folks from Lightning Labs host a show with folks who are working on Lightning, developing on Lightning. We're also going to try to do some beginner Lightning rooms. We're in the planning stages around that. We've got the Bitcoin India Hour, Bitcoin in Portuguese, Spanish, German, Turkish, French. And as I mentioned, we added Pakistan earlier today. Hopefully, a Bitcoin Africa room coming too, an Arabic room, a Russian room, and many other one off rooms that pop up all the time. Now, for those who don't know how this works, what we like to do, we keep the stage pretty tight. One second, actually, let me moderate everybody. Make moderator. Moderator. There we go. So we keep the stage pretty tight, and basically what we do is we bring up one person at a time. We ask you to be prepared with your question as well as a fun fact about yourself. It doesn't have to be true. Just 6 o'clock on a Monday. So entertain us. Tell us something quick and funny and exciting about yourselves. Let's see. Let me just ping Dan and make sure he's going to come. He was super excited to be here, and we are excited to have him on Twitter. Amanda, Dread, what's going on in your lives? How was your day in the wide world of Bitcoin?
In the wide world of Bitcoin, just enjoying the ups and downs and the always seemingly always positive news in the market. So enjoying the good headlines and all the inbound questions about it. Not used to this, used to the bear market. So enjoying this run right now.
Could you
I agree.
could you real quick maybe share with the folks listening right now what those big headlines were?
Sure, let me just
Putting you on the spot
put
here.
my real brain back on again today. I think we're looking at a few things like the stimulus package. A lot of people have theories that this stimulus package passing will up the price of Bitcoin. There's also I don't know if a lot of people are familiar. This is a little bit of old news, but I think it's interesting in the grand scheme of things that Coinbase has filed some of the initial paperwork before you can list an IPO. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that soon. Drad, do you have any other good news that you'd like to share?
Oh, yeah. I mean, apart from NGU technology being on overdrive today, we closed the day at 52, or I think above 52, which is super bullish if anybody has a TA out there. And also, the big news about CT.io, the the spin-off of the Norwegian or subsidiary of the Norwegian oil company that seems to be completely all in on Bitcoin right now. I mean, I didn't expect the energy industry to jump in yet because they're a really slow-moving industry. So this, to me, is really bullish in terms of everything moving a lot faster than many experts have expected. So bullish all around, you know.
Heck of a day. Welcome to Dan Held. Thank you for joining us. Dan, I think this is your first beginner Bitcoin Q&A with us. So I'll give you and everyone else who's new to the room a little rundown. Also, if you're in the room, do us a favor and hit the little plus sign at the bottom right and ping anyone who might be interested in Bitcoin or someone who does, even somebody who doesn't like Bitcoin. Invite them in. I think everyone can benefit from hearing these questions. And if you want to go back and listen to this again, we are streaming this to the Swan Bitcoin YouTube channel right now. Hello to everyone on YouTube listening over there. And you can go back and listen. You don't have to take notes, anything like that. You can just be here to enjoy and do some learning. So, Dan, one thing we like to do, one thing I like to do, is to ask anyone who comes up to have their question ready, but also to share with us an interesting factoid about themselves. It can be true or false, but it's late on a Monday, and I like to be entertained also. So, Dan, maybe you could share an interesting factoid about yourself and intro yourself to everyone who's here, and then we can go to the other moderators and do a quick intro as well.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me on, and always enjoy answering noob questions because these questions help me better do my job help me better do my job at Kraken, where we're trying to get new folks into Bitcoin, and also with my personal brand, where I try to compress Bitcoin's narrative and make it very easy to understand across a wide variety of topics. So this should be really fun. I'm looking forward to the questions that we're going to get. A little bit of background on me. So as I mentioned before, I work at Kraken. I write a bunch of content about Bitcoin, and I've been in the space for around 8 years. Had a wide variety of different positions at different companies. But yeah, I think that's the good 2 cents on me. And interesting factoid. Um, let's see. I think some people know this, but some might not. But I like to fly drones for fun, and I have 3 drones currently. 2 are the more cinematic ones. These are DJI Mavic, DJI Phantom 4 Pro, and my girlfriend recently got me a new FPV drone. So I'm going to be putting on the goggles and flying around first-person view very soon here.
Ooh, I did not know that about you, Dan. Very interesting. All right, let's. We've got 2 other great moderators tonight. Amanda, would you mind introducing yourself to everybody?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the Q&A. Amanda Cavaleri have been mostly an entrepreneur in emerging tech and went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole a handful of years ago, and so have just been enjoying the ride and got to work with some OGs in the space and mostly now work with funds. So for example, like Bitcoin ETFs or hedge funds, things of that nature, but really appreciate getting the newbie perspective on. It's always really interesting to hear or see when people have that aha moment. I love that part. So looking forward to it. And an interesting factoid. I live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, so get to ski quite a bit out here. So big skier. If anyone else is into that, feel free to nerd out with me about that sometime.
And last but certainly not least, someone who is a new acquaintance of mine, Mr. Bobo Dread, who is down in Jamaica. And if you've been to any of the Satoshi Sunday services, he does a incredible sermon. So I would urge you to check that out, and you can DM us and ask us about that later. Bobo, who are you, man? Who are you?
I'm just a dread from Jamaica, man. I mean, I've been in traditional technology consulting for God most of my career, and it just recently started diving out into more of the entrepreneurial side. That kind of coincided with my fall down the rabbit hole over the past 3 years or so, and I was just lucky because the content that was out there at the time was just started to ramp up so much, like handheld articles and audibles and stuff just really got me all the way down. And now I prophesize, as you say, and preach the sermon. Hallelujah.
I love it. All right, I think we've made everyone wait long enough. We've got some hands raised. Let's start taking some questions. All right, Osman Me, if I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. Come on up, tell us an interesting factoid, and let us know your Bitcoin question.
Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear. How you doing tonight?
Good, good, good. Thank you very much. Thanks for guys having me. This is very good and a good platform to ask new questions for beginners like me. I've just joined the Bitcoin journey and trying to understand this whole Bitcoin phenomenon that's going on. A couple of questions that I had was one is, if I start mining today, um, is that a good idea? Better than me starting investing in the cryptocurrency directly with purchasing? And if purchasing is a better idea, what are the top 3 platforms to use?
So I'll take a crack at some of these things. In terms of mining, it really depends on first and foremost how cheap you can get your electricity. If you can't get electricity sub like 2 cents a kilowatt hour, then you're better off just buying Bitcoin. And even nowadays, it's kind of a big player's game. So I would say, unless you can treat it like a full-time job, like treat it like a business, I wouldn't urge you to get into mining. Most people, I totally get the urge. I think everyone who goes down the Bitcoin rabbit hole thinks to themselves, "Oh man, why can't I just go out and mine?" And one day I'd like to eventually, run like move out to Wyoming, find myself a river. Amanda, if you know any property with a river where I can set up some hydro, that'd be great. But for most people, it is better to just start investing and buying Bitcoin. I feel like Dan, you might have some big thoughts on this one.
Sure. So the way to think about it is like, you know, gold mining is a very risky operation, and most gold mining today is done on a very like industrial level. And Bitcoin mining is very much the same. It's a very risky proposition. Margins are very very thin, and it's mainly done by the pros. So your life. It's kind of funny. I often think about this with any investment, but Bitcoin in particular. Whenever you think about an investment, like some people spend their whole life just to eke out like 5% return a year, or to eke out like some of these people, people run like a restaurant business, and maybe they make, they're working like crazy hours. They own the restaurant, but they're working crazy hours doing dishes, bussing tables, hiring, firing, all of this, and maybe they net out $100,000. So whenever I look at an investment or like work that you do, like what's the return you get on stress and effort? And with Bitcoin mining, it's massive amounts of stress and effort, that I would personally leave to the pros. Whereas when you just buy Bitcoin, hodling, while mentally challenging because you're taking on a lot of stress of seeing your net worth fluctuate, is probably one of the easier ways to earn a return. Pretty phenomenally easy compared to other investments. So from a risk reward perspective, there's not much additional gain you would get from trying to do mining, and you get a whole lot more stress.
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Osman, you didn't tell us an interesting factoid, did you? You're not getting that way so easy. Come on, man.
Interesting factoid. I in 2010, I was playing with some friends, and my friends were buying Bitcoin. I think it was like I think it was like 75 cents or something, and they're just playing around with it. And I tried to reach out to them now, and I can't get a hold of them anymore. So either they lost it all and they can't continue with their life anymore, and whether they have that entire inventory and they're just flying too high up now.
Well, the good news is we're all still very early. All right, Osman, I really appreciate it. Any follow-up questions? Here's the rule for anyone who's listening, because everyone inevitably has a follow-up question. That's all right. It just has to be good.
Yeah, and no, not a follow-up question, but just the question that I asked before. If buying is the better option, then what are the top
yeah.
to do so?
Well, it depends where you're located. If you're in the U.S., I personally recommend Swan Bitcoin. It's where I work. If you're looking for more of a trading interface, I think Dan will recommend Kraken. Um, it really depends. Are you in the U.S. If you don't mind me asking?
Yes, Northeast. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you're looking for. So I work for a company called Swan, like I mentioned, and what we do is we make it really, really easy to dollar cost average. For a retail platform, we have the lowest fees in the business, up to 80% less than Coinbase. Top-notch customer service. You can pretty much find us all on Clubhouse answering questions all day long as well. So we're around, and biased because I work there, but highly, highly recommend it. It's the only place that I buy Bitcoin. Dan, if you want to tell them a bit about Kraken, maybe.
Yeah, it's always better if someone gives the shill for your company versus yourself. But for a little bit of self promotion here, I work at Kraken. We're one of the oldest, most secure exchanges out there. We've been in existence since 2012, and we've got anything you'd like there. I mean, I personally recommend buying Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoin only sort of dude, but we've got anything you like there. So Kraken is, I would definitely say, more sophisticated. And I think Brecky put it in a really good light there, more being more sophisticated, having more features of different ways to earn yield, and you do margin trading if you'd like. These are advanced features that you should only get into if you know what you're doing. But I would definitely agree we're not the easiest place to try it out. We're kind of made for the pros.
So Robinhood is a no go because it's free exchange.
Ooh, so that's actually a great question. The issue with Robinhood, among many issues, is that when you're buying Bitcoin on Robinhood, it's like paper Bitcoin. You can't actually withdraw it. And part of this Bitcoin revolution is the ability to custody the asset yourself. So I never recommend Robinhood. I would recommend so many other places over Robinhood. Um, if you're just trading Bitcoin, that's one thing and you're taking profits in dollars, which I don't recommend either. But if you want to level up as a Bitcoiner and kind of really join this revolution that you were alluding to, eventually you're going to want to take self custody when you're ready.
Excellent. You guys are rock stars. Thank you very much.
I would want to add one thing too, that even though Swan Bitcoin is US only, Kraken is international. So for all my international friends out there, you can check out Kraken. I really love it to buy Bitcoin for as well. So yep, that was it.
Thanks, Dred.
Awesome. Thank you, Dred. Osman, we're going to move you back down. Amanda, would you mind choosing someone with their hands raised and bringing them on up?
I think I'm going in order if I pick Anthony. So Anthony, night and your dog. It's hard not to pick a person with a dog
wait.
like this.
A dog with laser eyes? Yes. Very much welcome to the stage.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a total Bitcoin noob. Should have listened to my best friend a long time ago, and he reminds me about it every day now. Just starting out, I heard Dan. My question was going to be, would you recommend
Oh, we lost you there for a second, Anthony. You still with us? You're breaking up, or my signal's poor. One of the two.
Having a little trouble
having some problems.
there.
Yeah.
Anthony, if you're on Wi-Fi, maybe take it off Wi-Fi. Otherwise, there are 3 little dots just to the upper right of my head. And if you click on those 3 dots, it says audio quality, and you can switch from low to high, and that might help us hear you better.
Awesome. I just took off Wi-Fi, so hopefully that fixes the problem. My question was going to be, would you diversify? And I heard Dan say he's Bitcoin only. What would be, the reason for strictly Bitcoin versus diversifying like your portfolio when you invest?
Dan, why are you Bitcoin only?
Great question. So I've been around for 8 years in the space. I've worked at about just about every single type of product, wallets, trading software, accounting software, exchanges, all sorts of places in different roles, different functions. I've seen Bitcoin go from $10 to where it's at now. So seen a lot. I've seen a lot of shit. There's what happens. Here's what happens. So Satoshi creates this thing called blockchain to build Bitcoin. And, blockchain is like any other tool in this world. It's like a shovel, it's like a tank. They're special purpose built to build and do very, very limited number of things. And so Satoshi built blockchain technology to build Bitcoin. And it's not very good at many other things. And that's because of its design surface area. Just like how a shovel isn't good to eat your cereal with, and a tank isn't good to, get picked up for a ride share. They're special purpose built to serve a certain function. Now, people came along and they hypothesized, they're like, well, what if we take Bitcoin and fork it and tweak it and we'll change different parameters? Would people buy that? And it turns out that the the temptation to print money is irresistible by humans. And so humans decided to print as much money as demand wanted. So what we saw over the last 8 years, there are 10,000 cryptocurrencies being created to satisfy all demand to want to speculate on what will be the next Bitcoin. The thing is, Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Bitcoin invented something with the 21 million hard cap, which is digital scarcity. And after investing in Bitcoin, there's no need to reinvest or reinvent digital scarcity and reinvest in that. Now, some of these other coins like Ethereum hypothesize, okay, well, we don't need to be money. We're going to try to be something else. But again, blockchain technology is not very good at being copy pasted into other functions, and so we're seeing some structural issues with that hypothesis. I actually wrote about this in my last email newsletter. If you search Dan Held Substack, the last run I wrote was Bitcoin versus Ethereum, which lays out the origins, differences in monetary policy and protocol stability and other factors. And I think that's probably the number one asset you probably have you would want to consider outside of Bitcoin. I'm assuming. I'm not recommending this. I'm just saying that as a common asset after Bitcoin that people look at is Ethereum. So I think this would probably be a good place for you to read up on it. But essentially those are the reasons why I only like Bitcoin. And personally I would only recommend that.
There's a there's another aspect to this that I mean, this is kind of what partially defines like why I'm also Bitcoin only. And it's that if you kind of look at how money works and the history of money, and h- the hardest, soundest money will eventually push out the bad money. And this might be over a very long time frame, but like to me, this essentially means that when it comes to Bitcoin versus everything else, it doesn't really matter if Ethereum, whatever, all these coins say that they're not money, they say that they're a world computer, or this or that, or whatever. They are in fact competing with Bitcoin, whether they like it or not. So over a long enough time frame, even with the technical defects, they're still going to fail against Bitcoin in the long run. The value will accrue to Bitcoin in the long run. To me, it's also kind of a matter of of what's important to focus on. Like, yes, there's the financial side of Bitcoin, and trying to catch the upside, which is frankly part of what makes Bitcoin great, this built-in incentive system to kind of keep it going. But there's also this aspect where, you know, to me, Bitcoin is our best chance at a brighter future. Like it is hope, it is optimism. So I'm going to throw everything I have behind what I think gives us the best chance at a better future, and that's Bitcoin. Um, yeah, just wanted to share my sappy Bitcoinery-ness with y'all. Anthony, any other follow-ups to that, or did we answer your question?
So I guess my only follow up would be with Bitcoin pushing about 54K US. Would you wait for it to drop a little bit before throwing a couple thousand at it, or would you buy like right now?
I can answer that question. So, I fell into this trap in 2013 where, it's kind of funny to think about it now, but, when I first got into Bitcoin, it was worth around $10, but I didn't buy that much at $10, man. I didn't have a lot of money at the time. And also, I, wasn't as far down the rabbit hole, right? So most of my coins were bought in the $100 range, but I still did the same thing where I'm like, oh man, $120 feels expensive because it was $10 a couple of months before. The right way to think about it is zoom out, and what we want to look at is the market cap And market cap, what that stands for is the number of Bitcoin, 21 million Bitcoin, which is the total diluted supply, times the price per Bitcoin, and that equals the total market capitalization. So, or you could look at the total current number of Bitcoin that have been issued and multiply that by the value per Bitcoin. And when we look at it in that respect, Bitcoin, I think, is very undervalued, which means that I still think it's a good deal, even at this price. And that's because Bitcoin's total market capitalization is only around $1 trillion. Now, that sounds a lot in isolation, but let's make sure that we frame this correctly. Gold is worth 10 trillion. All the fiat money in the world is worth like 60 plus trillion. And then you've got sovereign bonds, which I think are like 30 to 60 trillion dollars. And then we have real estate, which is also used as a store of value. You know, all those wealthy people buying homes in Manhattan and London just because they use it as an investment. All of these represent stores of value that Bitcoin competes with. So Bitcoin's valuation at 1 trillion, even just compared to one of these store of value assets, gold, is I think Bitcoin has a lot more appreciation, a lot more upside. So I still think it's a good deal to buy now. I think trying to time it is really tough. There's a methodology called dollar cost averaging, which reduces the amount of FOMO and fear that you have when you enter an investment position. So what you do is, let's say you want to put $1,000 into Bitcoin over, let's say you want to put $1,000 in, but you're worried that you might buy a little peak and that it's going to drop right after you buy it. So what you could do is you take that $1,000 and you invest it over 4 months, so $250 per month. And what that does is it ensures that, you know, if you bought it and it dips, you don't feel too bad because you still have 3/4 of it left to allocate. If you buy it and it goes up, you've reduced your FOMO a little bit because now you've got some skin in the game and you actually own some. So dollar cost averaging, I think, is a good way to minimize that the psychological things that you battle when entering a position.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And to not cheat you guys, my fun little factoid is, you know, I used to be cool, but my dogs are definitely a lot cooler than I am. So if you guys ever you know, get a free minute, go ahead and check me out at APB Bulldogs. Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for your knowledge, and yeah, thank you. You guys are awesome.
Wait, APP Bulldogs. I feel like I know you guys. You're not in LA, are you?
I'm in LA quite frequently. We have like a TV deal. So we're at Universal Studios pretty often.
Oh yeah, I do know you guys. I was looking to get in a bulldog a while back. I ended up getting a different dog, but yeah, you guys are awesome. Keep it up.
Awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Take it easy, Anthony. All right, Bobo, will you please bring someone up and let us know who you're picking?
Okay, let's see. I think I'm gonna go with Jason Kim. Let's bring him up here.
For
Jason.
for those who don't know what the laser eyes thing is all about, there was a meme floating around Twitter about everybody doing laser eyes until we hit $100,000 Bitcoin, and I'm still doing it. I'm still here. I'm gonna have laser eyes till 100K, and I just saw Bitcoin Tina say laser eyes till $1 million. So these laser eyes might be with us for a while. I'm going to do a real quick, before we get to Jason, a real quick reset of the room. For those who are new, this is a Cafe Bitcoin room. This is, of course, beginner Bitcoin Q&A. This is streaming to the Swan Bitcoin YouTube channel, so you can go back and listen to the questions. And for those who are new to Cafe Bitcoin, if you're not a member of the club, go ahead and click Cafe Bitcoin at the top left. You can join the club, apply to join. Everybody gets in, but you can tell all your friends that you're cool. You got in this cool club. We're talking about Bitcoin. We do shows pretty much every day now. We have Bitcoin rooms opening up in different languages, and you can find the schedule over at cafebitcoin.club. We just added Bitcoin Pakistan today, which is super exciting. We have Bitcoin in French and Turkish and in German and Spanish and Portuguese. There's a Bitcoin India hour on Wednesdays. My favorite show is the Lightning Lab. It's Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, where some of the team from Lightning Labs and other developers working on the Lightning Network come here and talk about Lightning, what they're working on. They do a Q&A as well. We do this beginner Bitcoin Q&A Monday nights and Thursday afternoons. And every morning there's usually a new room that opens up with a topic of the day. And there's lots of news coming out every single day. So the rooms are always popping and always fun. And is that all I've got to shill? I think it is. Just in case you missed it, the page is cafebitcoin.club. It has the schedule of events. It also has tons of beginner Bitcoin resources, including a free copy of Inventing Bitcoin, which is one of my favorite books. There's a link there. You can grab it for free. And we also have a companion Telegram chat that you can join and chat with other Bitcoiners and Bitcoin curious people. All right, Jason, an interesting factoid.
Okay, interesting factor is I'm still smarting over the fact that I was not able to get my five whole dollars worth of Bitcoin from Coinbase when I signed up, and I'm beginning to realize that Coinbase is kind of sucky for a variety of reasons. Sorry, I don't know if you just heard the last bit. I just was whining that Coinbase was kind of sucky for a variety of reasons.
No, we heard you, but feel free to say it over and over again.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that,
well,
Jason.
Okay, so actually, you guys already answered my question. One of my questions, which was, what's the deal with the laser eyes? Looks kind of, I don't know, cool / freaky / scary. I don't know what, but so thanks for that. So the other question that I have is, so besides Swan and what was that, Kraken? What are the other platforms? For example, how do you guys like Binance.us in terms of a platform?
So are you in the U.S., Jason?
Yes, I am. I'm in California.
Okay. So I think that apart from Swan and Kraken, if you're looking for Bitcoin only resources, then I wouldn't really go to too many exchanges. Apart from Kraken and maybe OKCoin, there's not too many out there that would do you better. There are other Bitcoin only companies though, like River.com, that has much more of a high touch, sophisticated service like Kraken, and they also have a very what do you call it? A hand-holding white glove service. You can call them up on the phone, just like Swan as well. So I would say River is another one. And then if you have Cash App on your phone, that's always a good way to do it as well if you're trying to buy Bitcoin only. Those are the ones that I can think off the top of my head right now. I don't know if you guys can add any others.
So, but do you guys have any specific dings against Binance? I'm just curious because again, I've sort of been through the beginner questions, but now I'm thinking, oh my God, there's like 50 different exchanges or marketplaces for Bitcoin. I'm like, I don't know which one to pick.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have too many things against them. It's just I don't really want to spread my KYC out to too many places. So, if I can just use one and it works for me, then that's what I would usually do.
Okay. Theoretically with Bitcoin, theoretically with Binance and everything else, I should be able to, even with Coinbase, I would think, I should be able to basically download the coins that I purchased to my separate personal wallet and then basically take that wallet offline, correct?
Yeah, aside from Robinhood, most exchanges and places like Swan, Kraken allow you to self-custody and withdraw. I'm trying. Does anyone know any others that don't? I'm trying to think if there are any to
I think
mention.
the only one I can think of is PayPal. Is the only one that doesn't
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, PayPal sucks for. Oops. Sorry about that. PayPal sucks for other reasons, given that unless you want to verify with a bank account, they charge ridiculous amount of percentage to get your money out, which turned me off. But in any case, I think that's about it for my questions. Thank you very much. Oh, fun. I guess second fun factoid. Oh dear. I am debating with myself whether I want to get laser eyes or not.
Well, it's easier than laser eye surgery, so you can always get rid of them. I say try it.
All right. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks,
Jason.
Dan, would you mind bringing someone up?
All right, let me take a look here. Should we just do it in order, or
there isn't really an order, so let's try to take a look at who's on there and who has maybe.
I like Moo's name. Moo J is a cool name, so I'm gonna add Moo J here.
I like that. I usually go with cool names or cool photos. So if you're in the audience, you have your hand raised. Make us laugh with a photo, and maybe we'll pull you up over somebody else. What's going on, Moo?
All right, Moo.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for this great channel and all the great information. Yeah, my question is, so I got into Bitcoin
Moo. Come on, man.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
No. One interesting fact. You got to tell us one interesting fact about yourself. Then you get to ask the question.
Oh, about my okay. Oh dang, I didn't even.
Well, maybe
Okay.
you join the room a little after this, but yeah. So we have everyone come up and say, tell us one interesting fact about themselves. It doesn't have to be true; just entertain us, and then we do the Bitcoin questions.
Okay, gotcha.
Favorite color, anything.
Favorite color, black. All right. Sorry, I was not even thinking about that. So sorry about that, guys. Um, uh, kind of caught me off guard here.
So
So
psychologically, Breggy, there's this thing where if you tell people to in an interview to tell you like one thing,
Oh,
it's really hard. But if
really?
you're like something or think of some things,
Yeah,
takes the
I'm not sure if
pressure off.
I'm not sure if it's completely relevant to noobs asking questions about Bitcoin. So if I were to have a vote, I would say that we don't ask people this because it's a little bit nerve wracking for a lot of people.
Ah, Dan, we do this every week. Every
Do you
week,
feel nerve
man.
wracked? Do you feel nerve wracked,
right.
Moo? Are we nerve wracking you? This is a safe
I
space,
mean,
Moo.
I think
It's
it's the
okay.
laser eyes,
well,
man.
yeah.
All right, how
Well,
about this? If somebody forgets, I'm not going to interrupt them again because that could definitely be jarring. But if you're in the audience and you have your hand raised, you've got at least 5 minutes to come up with one interesting fact. Doesn't even have to be about yourself. Go on Wikipedia. Just tell me something interesting.
All right. I sold my Tesla position before the S&P inclusion to buy Bitcoin.
Woo!
That's boss.
Noise.
All right, cool. Can I ask my question now?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I got into Bitcoin because of I saw like the macro data chart of like like from 2017 where it goes to the peak and then it comes down. So for this cycle, I know there's a lot of like rumors and talks about this super cycle and kind of like that it would just continue to go up. But I mean, if you base it off the macro chart, um, like in your opinion, where would be the top? And when that top comes, are you hedging your Bitcoin position, and how are you approaching that? I'm just kind of curious because obviously, things doesn't just go up in a straight line. So what are you guys doing to kind of either hedging yourself or kind of protecting your asset or investment for the downside for that?
You want my personal opinion, and do you want a tactical way to actually do that? I can offer both.
I would love to hear both of it. Yeah.
Okay. So, I think when it comes to complicated trading instruments, like, and I'll go into detail in terms of how to do that, how to hedge yourself. What the tricky part is timing all of this, and that's where the term HODL is kind of this rallying cry, this terminology to remind a Bitcoiner that trying to time the market is extremely difficult. I've been in 8 years, and let me put it to you this way: I don't know where it's going to go in the next month or two. If I did, I'd be a trillionaire. I'd be on my yacht right now, popping bottles, and no offense, probably be taking a nap. So trying to predict the future is really really tough. I mean, it's basically impossible because no one can do it. So in theory, it sounds good to be like, hey, I'm going to hedge myself if Bitcoin's price keeps going up. It's worth a lot of money to me, but I'm worried it might start to go down, and I want to hedge my downside. The hard part is choosing that moment. That in hindsight, it seems kind of obvious where you're like, oh, when it went from 10 to 20K in 2017, oh, it definitely felt exuberant, but it felt exuberant before that. And same with this cycle as well. Like, when do you start to hedge? And a hedge isn't free. A hedge costs money, and so the two ways to do it, you can either buy a put, which is you've got the right to um, sell your Bitcoin to someone else at a certain strike price, which you pay them a premium for that privilege. That costs money, and due to Bitcoin's volatility, that's typically very expensive to do. And another way to go short would be to actually go short on like an exchange using margin. That you can blow up really easily because if Bitcoin continues to rise in price, you can get margin called and squeezed. So, or as they call it, a short squeeze. So, in theory, I understand what you're talking about, where you're like, well, I've made a lot of money in Bitcoin. I'm worried if it goes down, I want to hedge it. Hedging is expensive and you may not be able to time it well. Also, Bitcoin is an incredible opportunity. I mean, I got into Bitcoin when it was $10, but I still believe in Bitcoin as strongly as I do back then. For me, I have basically my entire net worth in Bitcoin, and I would only recommend it if I had it, if I personally owned it myself. So, in that regard, I think Bitcoin has tremendous upside. Now, will we see a cycle play out like we normally do, where Bitcoin goes up a whole lot more and then dips 80%? I don't know. And personally, I don't think so. This cycle is very different from all the other ones where we've got the whole world waking up to what Bitcoin's worth. You've got macro traders, you've got Tesla, company treasuries buying Bitcoin. Pretty soon, someday, we're going to have central banks buying Bitcoin. So, do you really need a hedge in that regard? Or maybe this is Bitcoin, could be one of Bitcoin's final cycles. You never know. It could be a normal Bitcoin cycle, it could be one of Bitcoin's final cycles. And do you really want to be selling your spot on the lifeboat when everyone else wants to buy onto that lifeboat? And that's essentially what you're doing with Bitcoin is if you own one of those 21 million, you've got a seat, you got a seat on one of those 21 million lifeboats. And when you sell it, you're giving that seat to someone else. And in that moment, Bitcoin is worth a lot in fiat money, but it might be worth a lot because everyone's trying to get out of fiat money. So I think TLDR, like when it comes to I think in general, what you're really asking here is more of like taking gains or taking some money off the table because you've had a lot of appreciation and wealth with your Bitcoin holdings. No one can really tell you when the right time is to buy or sell. If you have a special life event, hodling as long as you can is ideal to maximize your return in Bitcoin. But at the same time, you are a human and you require shelter and food and other resources to survive. So I don't think there's any shame in if there's a big life event for you where you and your partner want to buy a home and you've decided to sell some Bitcoin for that. I get it. I understand. I mean, personally, I've hodled the whole way and I haven't sold any, but if you wanted to do that, totally get it. There's also other ways too. If you're worried about Bitcoin's price potentially dropping, but you want to, and you've got a lot of worth in Bitcoin. You could also choose a couple other ways to kind of, you could essentially monetize or take out some money against your Bitcoin. So one way to do that is you borrow dollars against your Bitcoin as collateral. And you could borrow, for example, if you do a very low leverage amount where you borrow, let's say $10,000 against $100,000 worth of Bitcoin collateral, it's very unlikely that you'll get margin called and that they'll have to liquidate your Bitcoin. So what that means is you could take some money off the table essentially, but you wouldn't have to give up any upside for Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin continues to rip upwards, you don't have any regret that you sold your Bitcoin. The other way would be to lend it and earn yield on it. To be clear, this does incur much more additional risk. You're taking on risk, and that is why you're being paid a yield. It is not risk free, it has risk. And so I just want to heavily emphasize that. That is another method where you could lend out your coins, those throw off a yield, and you could use that money for whatever you like, which might reduce the temptation for you to sell. Again, both borrowing against against your Bitcoin and getting dollars, and then also lending out your Bitcoin, both have risks. The risks are different, and if you choose to look at one of those options, make sure you understand what you're getting into.
Got you. I appreciate that information. One question. So, did you during the 2017 did you hodl the entire bear market, like when it was going down? And if you did, man, what was that like?
Dude, you want to talk about pain? I sold my company to blockchain.com in December 2013. And then I got paid for that company in Bitcoin. And I watched that Bitcoin that I got go from $1,200 a Bitcoin down to 200 in the bottom of 2015. So if you want to talk about pain, that was probably the most painful bear market that I've gone through. So 2017 was round two for me. 2018, 2019, sorry, was round two for me. So wasn't as bad, but it's funny if you huddle a long time, it all just becomes numbers in a way where you see zeros appended to your net worth and zeros taken away from your net worth. It's it's kind of a funny feeling where you kind of become emotionally disconnected from it. But Yeah, I think the 15 bear market was probably the hardest one for me. That was particularly brutal.
You also, for a lot of people, you get to a point where Bitcoin becomes your unit of account. And I don't know when that happened for you, Dan, but that was I bought two Bitcoins right around when you sold your company. That was right when I first dabbled, and then I watched it go down as well. And so I'm very grateful for that experience because it definitely prepared me more for 2017. But now that I think in Bitcoin terms, like my goal is just to accumulate as much Bitcoin as I can. Like, and when you have conviction, when you understand Bitcoin, it's not like I don't see Bitcoin as risky, not at all. Like to me, it's riskier to hold my money in dollars, even with the volatility.
Dan, I loved your analogy of the 21 million lifeboats. That really connects with me. And I would even dare to say that, there's even 21 quadrillion lifeboats as opposed to 21 million because,
Amen.
you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin, right? And
That's a great point.
and even that fraction can change lives. So yeah.
All right, Moo, thank you so much. I'm going to send you back down, and it's my turn to choose someone. So I'm going to choose someone. Move to audience, see who we've got, who's had their hand up for a little while. Todd Keeling, come on up. If you feel like it, tell us an interesting fact. But if not, just ask us a Bitcoin question.
Yeah, an interesting fact. Well, let's see. Actually, I'm pretty new to the platform here, so you got, can you hear me? I don't even know if I hit the right button.
Yeah, we can
Loud
hear you
and
just
clear.
fine.
Welcome.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I live alone. I thought about this. I live alone, and during this pandemic here, I'm in a little house, and it's actually kind of enjoyable, but I really miss the social, physical content. And then I enjoyed playing different kind of games and different kind of activities I would do. So I've actually gotten quite good at playing certain board games against myself. So that's kind of
You got to start playing for Bitcoin. You got to bet yourself some Bitcoin. If you
Yeah,
win, you buy
yeah,
some Bitcoin. If you lose, you buy some Bitcoin.
yeah, there's versions of that which I've done, and as I've talked with a few friends about and that's kind of my question will relate. A good friend of mine who's just started buying, I've talked to her about it, and I actually bought my first bit back in 2017, pre the run up, so that was an interesting experience, and I just sold through the summer. I just sold, and I made some money. I figured cool, but I didn't really understand it. I worked to try to understand and get it, but of course, like Dan says and other people say, it's a different thing now. It's evolving. It's kind of like a living organism. But my question relates to the idea of how to explain or to understand the idea of keys and then the addresses. And the question kind of came up with my friend when she first started buying on WhatsApp. She bought a little bit, and that's what I did recently too when I started buying back in about 7 months ago. So she buys it on there, and I said, well, buy some Bitcoin on WhatsApp. So now we're talking about moving the Bitcoin off, that exchange, or the idea of an exchange, to a software wallet, where you have the address, the keys yourself. And I talked a little bit about the 12-word phrase that would allow you to have access to your Bitcoin if you lost your phone or something. But it quickly became confusing because then she's like, well, wait a minute, didn't I buy it? Isn't it on the exchange? Or where is the Bitcoin, right? Related to the idea of the exchanges and wallets. So that get confusing pretty quick. Does anybody have like a good metaphors or ways they've had to explain this idea of, a key as an access to what you have and where it is?
Hey guys, I just hopped on. Do you mind if I
Not at all. Everyone, please welcome our good friend of ours, the Bitcoin Rabbi. He's got a great Bitcoin book that's good for kids and adults alike, and he's a wealth of Bitcoin knowledge. So I wanted to invite him on up.
I literally just bought your book for my mom, Bitcoin Rabbi.
Hey, awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks, Brecky. Thanks for having me on. So here's the thing about the Bitcoin is that when you buy them from an exchange or something like that, so owning Bitcoin, really what you do is you own a password to access the Bitcoin. They're not They're not on your computer. They're not on an app. They're not on your phone. They're not even on the exchange. All the Bitcoin exists. Um, they're just on a ledger. They're just in the Bitcoin network. Like they're on all the Bitcoin computers. And what you buy actually is you buy like a password to access that. So that password, you can be saving it on, either someone could be holding it for you. So the exchange, they hold the password to the Bitcoin. The technical term is the private key, the key to access the Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network. So the exchange, when you buy it at first, the exchange holds that for you, and they've got the private key to access the Bitcoin. Then what you can do is you can make your own private key, and you can do that on your phone, on a computer, or you can buy a device called a hardware wallet, which is like a little, like usually like a USB device. There are a few different brands, and what that does is it makes the password or the private key for you. And so you want to protect that. You want to keep it safe. Often it used to be like a long string of numbers and letters, like a whole big jumbled up, complicated thing. But more recently, in the past few years, they were able to, the developers change that into like usually 12 or 24 words that you take and you protect that. And that's your password to access the Bitcoin network and the Bitcoin that you bought. And so that's pretty much what you're keeping and what you're protecting. And if you leave it on an exchange, you're just telling them, you own the Bitcoin, but you legally are obliged to give it to me, or as much as you are. So just like when you put money in a bank, or when you deposit funds or any asset with somebody else, you have an IOU for it. But when you take access of it, you've got your password, you've got your private keys, and then you can go to any computer in the world and connect to the Bitcoin network and get access to it. So when you say that you're self-custodying or you're holding on to your own Bitcoin, what you're really doing is protecting these like 24 words that are your Bitcoin password. And you want to have it stored and backed up, and you want to make sure nobody else gets access to it, and also that you don't lose it. That's a basic idea of the difference between somebody else having the Bitcoin, the exchange having it, and then you having it yourself.
I don't. Sorry, I'm going to chime in. I don't think I've come across a better illustration of this concept besides a password, and I don't really love it. But what I would say is, for anyone who is interested in this and wants to kind of learn, what this is all about, is you kind of have to put the time into understanding, what Bitcoin is. And one of those resources that really helped, this is definitely the resource that helped me grapple with Bitcoin and understand what it is, how it works. Was that book I mentioned earlier, Inventing Bitcoin. So if anyone's listening, you can go to cafebitcoin.club. There's a link there. You can grab a free copy. I think the link is also in my bio. But it's like a 2 to 3 hour read. It'll get you up to date from from 0 to 60 on how Bitcoin works, why it's important, kind of the ins and outs, and you don't have to understand coding. And if someone's like semi tech savvy, when you're explaining it, you can, I think, kind of get into the basics of of cryptography a little bit. Not how cryptography necessarily works, but just what a public key is and what a private key is. The public key, you can almost think of it as the address, and a private key is what allows you to spend Bitcoin. Like the rabbi mentioned, your Bitcoin isn't in the computer. It always reminds me of that scene from Zoolander, where they're like, "What is it in the computer?" But the Bitcoin network and Bitcoin nodes and all of these things that are Bitcoin. You can the easy way to think of it that I use is that it is a ledger, like call it a spreadsheet, a Excel spreadsheet that lives on thousands and thousands of computers all around the world, and these computers are all talking to each other, all updating each other on who owns what, and only someone who has that password, that private key, has the authority to move Bitcoin from one entry in the ledger to another entry. I don't know if that helps, but
yeah, thanks. That's great. Great examples. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Amanda, would you mind picking somebody else?
Yes. Hopefully they're still here. I was creeping earlier. Ava, are you able to join us?
And then also for those joining us, we have a lot of hands raised tonight, and I'd like to kind of keep us going a little bit quicker. So if we can condense the
Yeah.
questions as much as possible, that would be great.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, welcome.
Okay, so I'm totally a noob. I've only been doing Bitcoin since December. Weird thing about me is I've got my whole family literally in the same bed with me right at this moment, laughing at me.
Hi,
because
family.
I'm the
Don't laugh
only
at her.
one in the
Hey,
Bitcoin.
family.
Yeah, they're all looking at me and I'm telling them all to shush. Anyway, cutting my hair. Shh. Anyway, so I've been kind of just like surfing the rooms and staying quiet. First off the bat, I tried to look into the Swan. Is that an iOS? Is that available on iOS?
No, Swan is only available on the web for now. We do have an app in the works, but the app uh, is sorry, not the app. The website is optimized for mobile, so you can definitely use it to its with all of the, oh my god, I can't talk. End of the
Just open
day.
up your Safari browser and you should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll work perfectly
Or
on your iPhone.
Yeah, so me and all my coworkers are probably gonna switch or migrate from Coinbase to probably the Swan. We've just been hearing good things about it. I've heard bad things about Robinhood, but I do like some of their menus and the transaction histories, and I am kind of listening to the rooms about like taxes and so if you guys all have good education and knowledge of platforms, which has the functionality of like Robinhood that's good for tracking taxes and all that, as well as user friendly and going from your bank to the app easily. Can you suggest anything?
Sure, Ava. I have a list in my profile of a few exchanges. I think on the taxes side, the time to really worry is if you're like selling or trading. Most people just don't win playing that game. I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on taxes, but definitely Kraken is good, Swan is good. There are a couple others I have listed that I like, but as far as ease of use, I think Krakens and Swans are pretty good.
I would just,
And
oh, sorry, real quick, Ava. I just want to reiterate something we mentioned earlier, that with Robinhood, you can't actually take custody of the Bitcoin. And maybe that's not important to you now, but if at any point in the future you ever want to withdraw the Bitcoin and practice what's called self-custody and take control of the Bitcoin yourself, you won't actually be able to do that on Robinhood. And if you did
Well,
want to,
that's not 100% true. I mean, you cannot do that currently, but Robinhood has publicly announced that they will allow for deposits and withdrawals. So currently, you cannot do that.
I think it's May, right? That they said it's going to start.
they're opening it up.
Yeah,
yeah,
Oh, well, all
Yeah,
right.
this was like last week, maybe not
yeah.
even a week ago. They just recently announced this that Robinhood is planning to allow for deposits and withdrawals of actual Bitcoin. But I would just say that a lot of these platforms, including Robinhood, if you've ever heard of Wall Street Bets, they really kind of are marketed and position themselves as like trading platforms. And whereas like that would be like Coinbase is an exchange to trade. It's got 50 different coins on it, and they encourage you to kind of trade back and forth and figure out which one and when to get in, when to get out. Other platforms like Swan, Cash App, a River, they're more saying Bitcoin is a good long-term investment that we're recommending that get a hold of and get some of it and put away for a long term. So if that's what your perspective is, that's maybe where you might want to be looking at. Whereas if you're looking at more trading, which is not something I recommend, then something that's more focused on trading.
okay. So I was just like shopping around like for something easy like Coinbase, but with the look and feel of like FTX or Robinhood.
Yeah, it's if you're looking for like more advanced trading feature set, I work at Kraken, and Kraken has some of those. So, for example, like margin trading or other kind of more advanced characteristics we have, we're not as easy to use as some of the other solutions, though. For example, like Cash App or a Swan.
Yeah, Cash App has an iOS app, which I think you mentioned before, that's just an app, and a lot of people already even have an account on it because they were just maybe using it for other things. So that might be the simplest interface that you might even already be signed up for. That's just, another very popular service people use.
Okay. Well, thanks for letting me chat. It's, probably redundant for you guys, but I'm just like, trying to go up to the next level, and I'm frustrated with Robinhood, and I've got most of my money in Coinbase. So I'm like, hey, what's the next best step up with, the cheaper fees? So
Well,
anyway,
for fees, definitely. If you sign up with a swanbitcoin.com account, and the recurring payments like weekly or monthly or something like that, the fees are gonna blow Coinbase and Robinhood doesn't have fees, but at least for now. But Coinbase and Cash App, Swan has much lower fees than them.
If you're looking to optimize fees, Kraken is the lowest fee alternative out of all of these. For example, I think our base level, if I look it up right now, Kraken.
Right, Kraken, and do you know Kraken versus Coinbase Pro? But again, these are much more complex.
It comes down to whether you want to be trading or you just want to be buying sort of through a retail app that's really easy to use.
Is that people like
totally,
if fees between like 1% fee and 2% fee and stuff, the price of Bitcoin usually moves between 1% and 2% every day. So
I think that's pretty unfair to say, though. I mean, fees on traditional equities are close to zero. So telling someone that 200 bips is fine, I don't think is, I think.
Right. No, I'm not saying. Yeah. I'm not saying you should go for the highest fees. I'm just saying if small differences, if you spend your time getting for sure, someone who's dealing with a lot of money and dealing with high frequency trades and things, then the fees can eat them up. But if they're just trying to find something that's easy for them, small differences in fees might not end up making a difference.
Bitcoin's going to $1 million anyway, right? So whatever. No, just kidding. Not kidding. All right, Ava. Anything else? Did we answer your question as best we could?
Oh yeah, you're fine.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.
We're gonna bring someone else up, and in the meantime, I'm gonna do a quick reset of the room. Welcome again. If you're new, this is Beginner Bitcoin Q&A. Feel free to hit the little plus sign to the bottom right. Invite your friends, your family, people you don't like, people you do like, and please join the club. If you're interested in learning more about Bitcoin, you can do so by clicking Cafe Bitcoin at the top left. Everybody gets into the club. And we have a bunch of great beginner Bitcoin resources available at cafebitcoin.club, as well as the weekly schedule. And we have tons and tons of rooms opening in different languages and for different skill levels and Bitcoin, depending on your Bitcoin knowledge. So, all right, I am going to bring up, let's see, who was here for a while. Tushar Mehta, come on up to the stage. Tell us your Bitcoin question.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, my question is regarding less to do with the Bitcoin itself, like on the technological part. I kind of get it a little bit because I'm from computer science background. But what I'm trying to understand is from the economy or finance side, which I have no knowledge. So when a government says, any country's government says that, okay, we are going to ban or we are trying to ban, how exactly they can stop or ban this Bitcoin or Bitcoin network? And is it technically possible, or it is just like on the government side statement that technically they cannot really shut it down? So is it really possible to ban it? And if so, how they can really ban this thing?
They can't really ban Bitcoin itself or shut Bitcoin down, because it's just people running software on their computer. It's decentralized. It's kind of like if you're familiar with the idea of how they were able to ban Napster, which was like illegal pirated music and movie software sharing because it had like a centralized database, but they can't ban BitTorrent because it's a decentralized network. Even though it's basically doing the same thing, it's something they would like to, but you can't do it technically. What could technically happen are bans on citizens from and their financial services from servicing Bitcoin, so banks and things like that. But especially in the United States, the direction of the regulations have really not been moving in that favor. It seems like there are so many people that are so many companies, so many citizens that are holding it, so much wealth that's in it. It doesn't seem like it's been going in that direction at all. And even a lot of the countries that have tried to put regulations and things, in China and now in India, often they try and do it and then they back up on themselves. So you can't ban Bitcoin. You can just try to ban yourself from using Bitcoin. Is a phrase that people say. Bitcoin just keeps on going. It doesn't really care because to run the Bitcoin network, you don't. It can just run anywhere all the time. It's just a matter of is the financial network of your country hooked up to it efficiently or not.
Yeah, I can try to give. Or sorry, go ahead, Dread.
Yeah, I was gonna give from a pleb standpoint, like from the grassroots movement part of it, if Bitcoin Rabbi or Dan wanted to send me Bitcoin from the US, they're sending it from their full node in the US validating the network to my full node in Jamaica validating my network. And government would have to, and then let's say, you're in Singapore, we'd be sending you money, Bitcoin to your full node in Singapore as well. These governments would have to collaborate together in order to ban Bitcoin in any kind of way. And that would be, worst case coming into your house to try and shut your computer down or shutting down the entire network of the internet, which you will have much bigger problems than just Bitcoin if they try to shut down the internet of the world. So it's really going to be, in my opinion, not really feasible to try and ban something that we all control from our own houses without needing any kind of um, traditional payment rails in order to do it. And that doesn't mean they won't try. Like there's been several countries that have tried to ban and have banned it already. There was a recent ban in Nigeria that happened, and the the premium for Bitcoin on the market went up once they banned it. So all they're doing is just giving Bitcoin popularity by banning it, infamy, and that's always a good thing for Bitcoin.
And I can kind of try to compress this into like a really simple narrative. The government has done a very poor job of banning drugs. Every government across the world has failed in that regard. Every government across the world has failed at stopping file sharing. And then every government in the world has failed to do anything about climate change. I do not want to get into a climate change argument. I'm just saying all the governments across the world care about climate change, yet they are unable to come together to solve that problem. So it leads me to believe that it is very unlikely they will be able to band together to solve a problem of Bitcoin if Bitcoin starts to threaten them. I actually wrote an article on this. If you search Dan Held, Can Governments Kill Bitcoin? I dive into some more of the nitty gritty details where, this is a very common question that people have when they come in. They're like, well, can governments ban it? I think the TLDR too of like, how do you actually kill Bitcoin, like from a technical level, from like a fundamental level. So let's not use those real world examples of other things, but let's talk about Bitcoin itself. The only way to kill Bitcoin is to kill it in all of our minds. You have to make me lose complete faith in Bitcoin in order to abandon it. Because my Bitcoin, I own X amount of Bitcoin on that Bitcoin blockchain ledger. And I don't care what you try to do to it. That's my Bitcoin. And unless I completely lose faith in it, and all of us do at the same time, Bitcoin's network will still run. People will still be running nodes. Bitcoin will still have miners, and those miners will help protect the network. And so it's essentially if we all believe in it, it will survive. If we all lose faith in it, it will die, similar to the dollar and gold. If the dollar tomorrow, if everyone lost faith in it, the dollar would be worth zero. And same with gold. If everyone lost faith that gold was a good store of value, it would go to zero. So Bitcoin operates under the same fundamental premise.
So they really can't do anything at the ISP level or at the DNS level where they shut down some ports, TCP ports or services, or which makes you that you are not able to run your node in the internet.
Good question. I mean, you can run Bitcoin behind Tor. You can run Bitcoin and connect through a VPN, and there's a lot of ways to circumvent something like that could occur.
Okay.
That's
Can I
actually a
ask-
huge and important point, and that's actually like one of the optimizations of Bitcoin is that's why it was designed the way that it was, to be government censorship resistant. So that's you are right on point with that question of why the trade-offs and why the design setup of Bitcoin is what it is to specifically not be able to be shut down in this way.
So even if they take down all the websites that contains the word crypto or Bitcoin, shut down all the exchanges, and shut down anything that the word comes on the internet, they censor those internet traffic. But you can still trade. It means buy and sell Bitcoin through your independent individual wallet, like a P2P trading. So
yeah, Tushar. So that's kind of the whole point of Bitcoin. Well, not the whole point, but one of the main points of Bitcoin is that it is a peer-to-peer network, and that if you and I decide if I decide to send you Bitcoin, there is literally pretty much no one who could stop you. There are some edge cases where miners could censor transactions and things like that, but at the end of the day, really there's no one who can stop that. And Bitcoin is also we say it's anti-fragile. So even if, let's say, one country decided to nationalize all the mining operations in the country, right? And either run them or shut them down. Let's say they shut them down, that would actually present an opportunity for miners in other countries. And so it has this amazing incentive system built in that will keep it afloat.
okay, got it. May I ask one more question, please? It is on a completely different direction.
Only if it's a good one.
Okay, you decide it's good one or not. So what happens at some point? Let's say most of the human beings on the planet, okay, accepted, they started purchasing. So volatility a little bit got reduced, like how it is with, let's say, fiat. At some point, it reaches a trillion, so whatever X amount. How someone will decide that, hey, I want to sell you something. So whatever the price of one coin, how it will translate to the price of something that I want to sell. Like how that exchange will happen, because currently everything is perceived, or what I see is store of a value. But there is other aspect of the Bitcoin that may translate into transactions, right? People will do some work and they will get rewarded over salaries or anything that we are exchanging objects and materials, doing businesses. How do you price something in terms of a Bitcoin at that stage?
At that stage, one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin, right? I think we'd be pricing in Satoshis at that point.
Yeah, all prices are an emergent market function. Any price of anything. I mean, why is a banana 60 cents and not 80 cents or something? All prices are a function of the market. And so at some point, just like it is now, just like right now, the price of a banana is something amount of Bitcoins, and you're just measuring that at what the Bitcoin exchange rate to dollars is and what the price is in dollars. But it's the same idea. You're just saying, how much is this thing valued, and then what am I trading it against? Right now, mostly we're not trading Bitcoins directly for goods and services, but if and when that is happening, it'll just be an emergent thing. It's not like it doesn't even need to happen all at once. It just emerges as part of the free market.
So how? So I shouldn't be thinking as if like today one apple, let's say, costs $5 USD, let's say for an example. Then in future, how that one apple will cost in BTC. That's two are completely independent. I shouldn't be relating those two values.
I mean, I think it's more thinking in terms of purchasing power. At some point, in the future, whether when Bitcoin levels or when it doesn't, it doesn't really matter. It's based off what the rabbi was saying, like the markets will determine how much an apple is worth in terms of anything else.
I see. All right, that's all I guess. I have many, but of course I need to give some of the people time, so I will go back.
Awesome. Thank you, Tushar. We appreciate
Thank you.
Some great questions.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bobo, would you do the honor?
Sure thing, Brecky. Let's see. I'm going to pick Roland Wegler. Come on up, Roland.
There. Thank you so much for putting me on the stage here. And
No problem.
I apologize for my ignorance on the subject. I just recently found out about Bitcoin.
You're going to give us a weird thing about you first, or you're just going to go right to the question? Up to you.
Oh, what do you guys want to know? Like who I am, where I'm from?
No, don't dox yourself.
Okay.
Also, when did it turn into a weird thing about yourself? It's just interesting.
Oh, it was just interesting.
Weird
Sorry.
is good.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I should keep my PR and yeah, very interesting. So anyways, my question is just simply, technically, how do I know that somebody couldn't just produce more Bitcoin somewhere? Like, how is that guaranteed that somebody couldn't just produce more Bitcoins and then at some point, it could bring about inflation for a Bitcoin?
Well, I have a really good analogy for this.
Yes, please.
If you don't mind. Okay. So it's like, do you know how many strikes there are in baseball?
Yeah.
How many strikes are there in baseball?
3, right?
3 strikes. Yeah. So
yeah.
If we were to play baseball together, or if you were to go anywhere in the entire United States and play baseball with anyone, how do you know they're not going to make it 4 strikes? So basically, there's a code that enforces what's a consensus, meaning that it's everybody knows that there are 21 million Bitcoins. There's a code that enforces that. Now, it's trivial to change the code. I mean, you just go in and, if you know code, you change a 0 to a 1 and a 21 million to a 21 trillion or whatever, to write that. The problem is, though, just like if you were to go to a baseball game and you get your 3rd strike and they say you strike out, and then you say, no, when I play baseball, I get 4 strikes. I get another chance. You get thrown out of the game. So the same thing happens on the Bitcoin network. If you change your code, the thing how the Bitcoin network works is that everybody's running the exact same code that all says the same thing. All of our codes check every single 10 minutes. They check to make sure that there's only 21 million Bitcoins, that we're all following the rules. And if there's one person that changes their code in any way that gives themselves more Bitcoin or gives them some Bitcoin that belongs to someone else, they get rejected from the network. So it's the same idea as a person coming and cheating at a sport or something like that. We all know the rules. It's just, you don't have to, go and scream at the person. Your code on your computer just throws them off the network. So there's no way for anyone to, unilaterally just go in and change that, because everybody's who's running the Bitcoin code, which is tens or maybe even 100,000 nodes across the world, all running the same thing, all in consensus, all like uniform on the exact same rules and exact same setup.
Hey, everybody, real quick, I just wanted to welcome Jan Pritzker to the stage. If you remember me talking about an awesome book called Inventing Bitcoin, Jan is actually the author. He's also one of my bosses over at Swan Bitcoin, but he's a brilliant Bitcoiner and an expert at explaining topics like this. Although, Rabbi, I love this baseball metaphor. I think it's a great one.
I like it too. The only thing I would add to it is just like in baseball, if that person tries to get to fourth, say it's have 4 tries, and you'd have to stop the game and kick them out and kind of disrupt it. In Bitcoin, you won't even notice. Like it just rejects that transaction, and you just keep humming along like it never really happened.
Wow.
Thanks
Well,
for the
it
intro,
actually
Brecky,
it
and
did.
I'm hardly your boss, but thank you.
But I have to say, it did happen. I mean, you're right. No one, like, we noticed it, but it didn't disrupt anything. Last year, there was a bug in one miner's code, and they accidentally tried to give themselves like an extra, like, tiny fraction of a Bitcoin, like so minuscule, so minor. It wouldn't have really been a big deal, but the entire network just like completely, as one, threw them off and disregarded them because of that. Even though they put in the energy and put in the effort, because they had like a little bug in their own personal running code that tried to print an extra Bitcoin that wasn't necessary. So it kind of like made the news that it was like, oh, Bitcoin worked exactly how it was supposed to. It doesn't usually happen because it would be a waste for anybody who tries to do it. They're just wasting their time and wasting their energy. But it did happen by accident. And there have been a few other times where other efforts for different reasons have tried to change things in Bitcoin, and the point is that they just get kicked off and thrown off the network.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
my
and I
point
think
is
that
that
mistake with the miner made, I think, cost him like $150,000 at that current time, given the block reward and the price. It was a pretty expensive mistake to make.
yeah, and my point is that Bitcoin doesn't care about the news. We call it the honey badger because it really doesn't care. So it might have made the news, and he really paid the price for that. But my node didn't care. My node didn't stop running. My node didn't skip a beat. I hit the next block in the next 10 minutes.
Wow. Great. And while I'm up here, could you guys explain to me what a Bitcoin wallet is and how that works?
Jan.
Sure. So a wallet's a
Jan.
little bit of a confusing terminology because it makes you think that Bitcoin is in the wallet, but really
Right.
the wallet is more like a place to store your keys. Think of it like you're carrying the keys to your house, in your pocket or in your wallet. So the Bitcoin wallet, what it does is it allows you to store the keys that allow you to spend your Bitcoin, right? To move your Bitcoin from addresses where you received it to new addresses that either you own or other people own. And wallets basically kind of like abstract away the complexities of the Bitcoin network for you, and they just generate an address every time you want to receive Bitcoins. You just click a button to receive, it gives you an address, and then whenever you want to spend it, then you just you send it to another address, and your wallet kind of manages all of the magic that has to go on for that to happen. So it's really just a place to store very large numbers, which are your keys that allow you to spend the Bitcoin.
Wow. That's cool. Okay, great. And then last question. When is Amazon going to accept Bitcoin as a currency? Or will
Let me
they?
look at my crystal ball. Hold on 1 second. We don't know.
Tomorrow. No.
Good. Let's buy some more Bitcoin then. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Roland. And while he's here and while we're asking questions of this nature, I will shill once more Inventing Bitcoin. It's my favorite Bitcoin book on trying to understand how Bitcoin actually works. And you can grab a free copy at swanbitcoin.com/free book. Alrighty, let's bring someone else up. Who do we got? Ooh, Derek, you've got a last name that I want to try to get right, so I'm going to bring you up. Derek Naji? How do I pronounce the two N's? I need to know this.
It's simply Naji, so you did it well. Appreciate that.
All right, cool. Welcome up. Let us know your Bitcoin question.
Awesome. So my special thing to share is I'm 6'7", so quite tall for an average. But getting to my Bitcoin question, I've heard quite a bit on portfolio construction, and just open to hear some perspectives and opinions. I've seen really conservative numbers like 1%, 2% allocation to crypto, or 5% more recently, but I think that almost feels like nonsense. Does anyone have any other opinions as compared to cash and equity? How would you allocate a percentage to crypto?
Rabbi, what does the Torah say? 1/3 to Bitcoin, 1/3 to land, 1/3 cash. How does it go? No, I'm kidding.
One third land, 1/3 business, and 1/3 in cash. And Bitcoin is peer-to-peer digital cash.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough question. I would hazard a guess that most of the people up here are very heavily allocated to Bitcoin. I am quite heavily allocated to Bitcoin. I think it's it really depends on your understanding of Bitcoin, I think. So I mean, maybe not. I don't know if you're just looking at it from a purely investing standpoint, but you tend to see that the greater your understanding of Bitcoin, like the more Bitcoin you tend to hold, the greater your portfolio allocation. I don't know if anyone else has specifics on what they'd like to share.
I would tend to agree with you on that one, Berkey. My education drives my allocation.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
education drives my
That's great.
allocation.
I think I would say that when I first got into Bitcoin and I know first kind of dabbled in it, was like, oh, I don't know what this is. I'll just buy a little bit. And then it was like, oh, I'm kind of getting, this is interesting. Maybe I'll buy a bit more. And then it was like, maybe, maybe I should just start buying regularly because, the price is going up and down all the time. So dollar cost averaging going, on an automatic savings plan is really useful. But I would say that really in the year 2020 is when I started flipping my personal perspective to thinking of net worth and Bitcoin. And then at that point, you just kind of start thinking, okay, am I making more Bitcoin or less Bitcoin? Should I invest in stocks? Should I invest in other things? Is it increasing my Bitcoin holdings or not? And it starts to really change your perspective. And then you pretty much don't do anything but stack Bitcoin.
Awesome. I went through a similar discovery where I found out I bought some apparently on Coinbase many years ago and randomly on Robinhood, and then quite quickly this year, it's like I need to be on Swan Bitcoin and just dollar cost average on a daily basis, and just let that accumulate and not think too much about it.
Yeah, it's also just great to like sleep and not worry about price. I mean, yeah, we all check the price. I'm not gonna pretend I don't check the price, but for me, I check the price because I'm excited about the adoption and like what's happening in the world more so than I am about the size of my stack. I'm just thinking about like, I don't have to worry about trading. I just kind of sit there and let it happen. So I think that's really the way.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think, Derek, if you're looking at like signals from the market, some family offices have been in it for a while, and then obviously all the institutional investors getting in. But even when Jim Cramer says like 5% into Bitcoin, that's, a pretty strong signal. And I think that those types of messages will be put out there quite often. But I like that education leads to allocation. Nice one.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Derek. We appreciate it. Some great questions. All right. Jan, you're new. Will you pick someone in the audience and bring them up?
How about Aulani with a cool name? I like the name.
No, Jan. Somebody with their hand raised. Click on the bottom.
I don't know how this works, guys. I'm a Clubhouse noob. I have no idea who I'm looking at.
No worries. Alani is awesome though. She's actually a huge Swan fan. I'm a big
great.
Alani fan.
Perfect. How about Rizal? I'm just going by cool names. Rizal sounds good. Is she a hand raiser? I don't know how to read this, guys. I'm gonna give up. Frankie, you do this for me.
No worries. Apollo Titan with the laser eyes. You're coming on up if you're there. Had your hand raised for a while.
Hi.
Welcome. What
Thank
can
you
we do you
for bringing
for?
me out. So, do you want to hear the funny thing? Okay, so I was in like the funny, and I have to thank Dan because I'm following him on Twitter, and I found him, and I have to say because of him I started to buy Bitcoin, and also because I saw Michael Saylor. But then, so I used to have Tesla shares, and then I sold it, and I was happy. I said I made money, and I bought like the oil stock because they were down. But then they went more down, And then I saw one tweet of Elon Musk about the coin that we all know that he's doing. And then I said, okay, let's see. And then I found Michael Saylor and Dan Held, and then I started to buy because of him. So thank you very much, Dan. And I think you are the greatest. And really, I'm a big fan of you, and I follow you, and you are the best. Congratulations, and also for all your job and your strength and effort that you put on your job, business, and career, and as well as Bitcoin.
Thanks, man. I'm blushing over here.
No, really, I listened to you since like last October, so you are really the best.
This is awesome to hear because I have all these followers, but it's in these moments when I can realize like, oh, I'm actually impacting a guy named Apollo. Like this is really cool to have this sort of feeling to know that I helped you along your Bitcoin journey. I didn't have a lot of people that helped me, and so that's where I felt like, hey, and that's what I think Jan and Brecky and Corey and the Rabbi, what we all do is try to craft content that helps more people get into Bitcoin.
Yes, all of you. I have to say also the Swan Bitcoin team, I start to follow them, the CEO and everybody, great people. I mean, they are putting effort and every day and to teach people and to tell them how to do it and everything. So my question is, okay.
Hey, Apollo, just before you launch into your question, I just want to make this worse for Dan. So
yeah.
If anybody wasn't aware, Dan was one of the people that I looked to as being one of, I thought, just having the best set of arguments and the calmest demeanor and the most information sort of at the tip of his tongue and sort of at the ready when it comes to talking about Bitcoin. He's just got like a really deep war chest of arguments, analogies, knowledge, experience that he brings to bear. And I saw it in the media first, and then I got to start hanging out with him as I plugged into the space a little bit more. And I remember tag teaming a blockchain happy hour at one of the hotels in Beverly Hills with him, and just like trying to deal with all these people's objections and educate them real time and stuff. And in a lot of ways, Swan and what we try to do with the education is really just trying to kind of like bring some scale and some more exposure to, it's almost just like how to make people like Dan and Jimmy Song and Max, like just give them even more scale and more exposure. So I just, personally always thought you're a model for what we try to do, and thrilled to have you here hanging out with the new folks in a Q&A. So thank you.
Hey, we're all part of Bitcoin's marketing team.
Amen.
We
to
do
that.
occasionally take the same side of that argument with some other folks.
All right, Apollo.
So
let us know your question.
Yeah, the question is like easy. I would like to understand, as I still have the Bitcoin on, I can tell you on Kraken and some on Swan Bitcoin, a little bit on Swan Bitcoin. Why do you recommend to take it to the cold wallet? I mean, can I keep it on Kraken or on Swan Bitcoin? I mean, I don't want to put it on the cold wallet because maybe I'm going to lose the words. I don't want to have 24 words in my mind or something like that. I mean, how dangerous is it to keep it in the, I mean, in the exchange? I'm like, it's like if I have money at Chase or Bank of America, I know the bank are insured, but can I keep the Bitcoin safely? I mean, I would like to know your thought about that. Thank you.
Yeah, I can help answer this. So I know it's a very nerve-wracking, kind of nervous moment moving coins off of an exchange to your own self-custodied wallet. It's kind of like it's like a gun, or it's like a car. It's a very sophisticated instrument, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could hurt yourself with it. But that's the power that Bitcoin has, is that you're able to take full control over your coin, which is really, really cool. So what I would recommend is that you buy a hardware wallet and you buy a metal backup. The metal backup is what you etch or carve your 12 to 24 word backup keyword list into once you get that hardware wallet set up. So get it set up and then move over a little bit and get comfortable with it. And try something where, for example, let's say you move $100 over, and let's say $100 isn't a lot of money for you. I'm not going to assume what is or isn't. I'm just going to say, for the sake of this conversation, that let's say $100 is not a lot of money. Maybe move over $100 into your hardware wallet and then erase it. So you go through the procedure of having to restore it with your backup, that 12 to 24 those 12 to 24 words that you wrote down. That way you get comfortable. It's kind of like with any tool, right? Like when you go driving, the only way to get comfortable with it is to drive the car. Same with a gun. You have to get used to like where the safety is, how to load it, how to clean it. Same with your hardware wallet. Move money over, erase it, which is a pretty scary moment because you're like, oh man, well, now I have to actually use my backup and see if I've done it correctly. And then when you do that, you can check it out and make sure you've done it correctly. And I think that in that moment is a really great way to get more comfortable with it. Same with swimming too. I'm not sure who here is, did swimming when they were younger. I did sprint triathlons in college and was a really avid swimmer when I was younger. You have to get used to the idea of like having water in your mouth or water in your eyes. And it's uncomfortable at first, but you get used to it. I think same with private key management is you just have to get used to the idea of like, I am taking full responsibility for my Bitcoin. So I would say get it set up, move a little bit over, get more comfortable with it, and then eventually move over as much as you feel comfortable handling on your own. My philosophy in private key management in general is never put all your coins in one spot, whether that be one spot to self custody it or one spot on a centralized exchange. What you're trying to minimize here too is I've seen a lot of Bitcoiners who did their own private key management and they did it poorly because it was really complicated back in the day. I mean, people forget that the 12 to 24 word mnemonic is actually a newer invention with, I think it's BIP39. So I've seen a lot of Bitcoiners lose all their coins because they came up with something extremely sophisticated where like they came up with like a cipher for their backup and, it gets really nuts. So, with this, I think do what you're comfortable with, but you do have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit to get used to self custody, owning your own private keys, managing them. But at least start to try to move over a little bit, and then once you're comfortable, move over more. But again, never put it all in one spot. What you're trying to do there is minimize catastrophic risk. If you left it all in the exchange and the government went to the exchange and said, "Hey, we need to freeze these funds," that's catastrophic risk. If you hit your head and you had you had a complicated backup scheme for your Bitcoin, that's a catastrophic risk. So a lot of this is about minimizing catastrophic risk and just getting comfortable with private key management.
Yeah, I understand. So I understand. Yeah. And okay, thank you so much. I understand. Last funny question that I'm always thinking about that. How come a genius like Elon Musk is buying for the company Bitcoin and is always making memes about another coin? Can you explain me, a genius crazy man, why he's doing that? I mean, people great like you should have had something in the mind saying why he's doing that.
I
That's
think
that.
you just answered. You answered it. He's a crazy man.
I think Elon is an incredibly intelligent person he took on the entire automobile industry that's a 120-year-old industry to go build Tesla. I mean, he had to fight state and local governments, which didn't even allow him to sell cars directly to consumers because that's how ingrained these crony capitalist companies were. When he took on Boeing and Lockheed Martin with United Launch Alliance, he had to sue the Air Force because the Air Force gave a no-bid contract to Boeing. We're talking he's gone after the hardest industries to go conquer and with some of the grossest, most misaligned government, mixed with crony capitalist sort of endeavors. And he fucking won. He crushed that shit. I mean, this guy is, Steve Jobs level genius. I think when you're that crazy to go against the grain that hard, kind of like us Bitcoiners. I mean, we were all considered nuts and still are by our family and friends. When you go against the grain that hard, I think you just stop giving a shit after a certain amount of time. And I think for him, he's just stopped caring anymore. And he thinks Dogecoin is funny, and that's why he talks about it.
Yeah, I think he's the ultimate troll. I think you're right, Dan.
Thank you so much, Dan. You always make the right to me the right impression and the right answer. I appreciate. Thank you so much, and all the best to you, to everybody, to Swan Bitcoin, to Dan, to Craig, and to all the members of the team. And thank you for the Cafe Bitcoin. Amazing. I haven't heard. I mean, you're amazing. Congratulations again.
Appreciate it.
Wishing you the best to you as well, Apollo. Thank you so much. I wanted to welcome BTC Sessions up to the stage, a regular here in Bitcoin Beginner Q&A, and a very knowledgeable Bitcoiner on all things, well, Bitcoin.
Yo.
What's going on, man? I've actually got to go take my puppy out and see if he has to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to hand the reins over to Bobo real quick, and I'll be back.
No problem. And BTC Sessions, since you are new, you can pick the next person to come up and ask a question.
I think I got to be modded first, but I'd be happy to.
Oh, I can do that for you. There you go.
Perfect. Okay, hold on a sec. All right. Is there hands raised? I don't see any hands raised.
Yeah, we got about 26 or so hands raised. Should be popping up.
Now I'm seeing some. There we go. Okay, cool. Let's get, how about Dan Williams? Let's get him up here. And
hey, Dan, come on up. There you go.
Hey, thank you. I can't believe I'm talking to Dan and Benny at the same time. That is wild.
Welcome. How are you, man?
Good. An interesting fact from me, I guess, is that I 2 days ago signed up for Dan Held's newsletter and am very much enjoying it. So,
thanks.
I guess I have more of a philosophical question of at this point, what are the genuine risks to the Bitcoin network?
I guess I'll take a first stab at that. And I think BTC Sessions just joined, so we should probably actually BTC Sessions, you just joined. How about you take the first stab at it?
I think there's less and less genuine threats as time goes on. I think any real genuine threats that we would see now would realistically be somewhat temporary, like excessive regulations coming down that really hindered kind of on ramps and stuff. But even in those instances, we see Bitcoin trading at a premium in countries that try to implement stuff like that. So it just makes it, if you already have Bitcoin, you're already ahead of the game in those countries because people then really want it. But honestly, I'd say some of the biggest hindrances come from the individuals using it, not being educated enough to know exactly what they're doing. So, a lot of the main worries are phishing attempts or user error or, compromised devices and things like that. Just irresponsibility on the parts of users and being swindled into trading your Bitcoin for something else. Those are kind of the main threats that I see now. We're 12 years in. There's a $1 trillion bounty to break Bitcoin, and it's still pumping out blocks every 10 minutes. So, I see most of the threats as being external to Bitcoin, and I see them as only really having the power to slow it down, but not stop it entirely.
It's a great answer. And I would agree. I think Dan said it earlier as well. Like people's apathy would be to me the main threat. It's like, if people stop caring, value is subjective, and if we stop caring about Bitcoin, then it will die just like anything else would.
You could also say that the other biggest threat would be central banks actually being responsible with their own currencies. But I think that's definitely not going to happen.
That answer your question, Dan, or did you have any more?
No, that's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And Benny, I wanted to thank you for your amazing tutorials, setting up nodes and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. So thank you everyone for everything you do. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. That actually means a ton. I'm always flattered to hear that.
Cheers, Dan.
Cheers, Dan. So circling back, Amanda, did you want to pick someone else?
Sure. Let me let's see who's been waiting for a while. I think I say Vigon. I'm gonna try to invite you up. Hopefully it works. Vigon, did it work? We'll try someone else.
Looks like Brian. Nope, Vigon did not come up. So let's see who else you want to try.
Tried Charlie. We'll see if he's able to come up. Hi, Charlie.
Hey, sorry, it's a bit noisy here.
Hey, Charlie, we can't hear you much, but welcome to the stage. If you want to give us something interesting about yourself and then ask a question. Charlie, can you hear us? Yeah, looks like we might have to try someone else there, Amanda.
Pressure's on now. I'm like striking out here.
Strike two.
Oh, we will just go Otar. Some of these folks have been waiting a while too, so maybe. Welcome.
Very true.
Yeah, hello everybody. Hello. I have like a quick question about Dogecoin, right? There's a Bitcoin and the Dogecoin, and the fundamentals are the same, right? It's a cryptocurrency for both currencies. I mean, at some point, if we take aside that it's like a fun coin, right? It's some kind of like a fun-based coin, but in reality, it's a cryptocurrency, right? If people agree that it's valuable, at some point it might become usable for people to use as a currency, right? I just wonder if it's possible or not in terms of the technological side of it.
Who would like to take this one? BTC sessions?
Yeah. So your question is it equally valid as Bitcoin? Absolutely not. Just to be blunt about it, like this, some of the history of this coin, it was literally made as a joke because the guy who kind of led the charge on creating it thought it was so stupid that so many people were basically just creating knockoffs with trivial little adjustments to Bitcoin. And he thought, what would be more stupid than creating my own coin called Dogecoin with the meme of a Doge as like the main selling feature. This coin has gone through bouts of basically no development. In fact, there was no development over the last 2 years until Elon tweeted out a couple of memes, and then suddenly there was like a couple new commits, or just recently. There is no supply cap, although I should caveat that with the same amount in terms of units of inflation come into circulation every year. So in relation to the entire existing amount of Dogecoin, percentage wise, that does decrease over time, but there's still a lot of Doge to be created as of yet. The whole thing is a joke. It was meant to be a joke. I guess that's part of the beauty about it. It was meant to point out how stupid this whole space is, but the fact that it's that people are treating it like an actual investment nowadays, I guess is just exactly the point of the original creator of it. So I guess that's kind of poetic, but I wouldn't treat it as a valid investment. And if you look back historically at the price of Dogecoin versus Bitcoin, all you see is just massive pump and dumps, big spikes and then drops. And so unless you're incredibly timely, you're probably going to lose Bitcoin by swapping Bitcoin for Dogecoin.
I wanted to add a little bit to that, which is related to Doge, but also every other coin really, is that these things, yes, while fundamentally they are the same in nature and that they are all code and they all run, you could call them decentralized systems, although it's questionable how decentralized some of these are. Really, if you look at them as money, you start to see a different pattern emerge, and that is that money has a network effect that is extremely strong. I mean, take, for example, Elon, who's tweeting about Doge, but what is Tesla buying? Are they buying a whole lot of Doge, or are they buying a whole lot of Bitcoin? Because imagine, Elon in his boardroom trying to convince his board that they should go all in on Doge, right? If you're buying anything but the most liquid thing, you're basically, I think you're probably in breach of fiduciary duty. If you're saying, okay, Bitcoin's a possible substitute to cash, it's a substitute to US dollar, that could be a leap of faith. But then saying, oh, but yeah, we're not going to buy Bitcoin. We're not going to buy the one thing that everybody else is buying because that's how money works. No, we're going to buy Doge because, it has a funny dog on it. I mean, imagine that conversation, right? Nobody's buying Doge on a corporate level. Nobody's leaving Doge to their children in trusts or IRAs or, for retirement. People are doing that with Bitcoin, and that creates a long demand, long-term demand for Bitcoin as a money. And the other coins that basically try to mimic Bitcoin's behavior, they don't have that going for them, right? Because now every time somebody decides to buy a coin, it's like, should I get Bitcoin, which is going up and other people want, or should I get this other coin? So just think of it as money and everything shakes out.
Understood. Thank you very much for your thoughts.
Was it a coincidence that I go to walk my dog and I come back and you're talking about Dogecoin? I think so. Just a coincidence.
And before I hand it off to Break, I wanted to tell everybody that there is a remarkable amount of knowledge on this stage right now. So feel free to follow all your moderators. I mean, they write some really amazing books and articles, and I am loving everything that they write. So trust me, follow them if you want to know a lot about Bitcoin. Back to you, Brecky.
Cheers, man. Well, I think you were doing a great job. You can continue doing it if you want.
No, it's all you, man.
All right, Otar, we're going to send you back down. We're going to choose someone else to come on up. Let's see. I'm going to choose someone. I'm going to choose Hal Ripley because I read it quickly and I thought it was Hal Finney. R.I.P. Welcome up, Hal. To those who don't know who Hal Finney was one of, I guess he was the earliest Bitcoiner besides Satoshi almost. And he was the second person to, Hal can't join us. All right, 1 second. Let's see who else can join us. I'm going to choose Ephraim Haile Selassie. Welcome on up. If you're here. Anyway, Hal Finney was he was the second person to run the Bitcoin software after Satoshi, the first person to receive Bitcoin in a transaction from Satoshi, one of the heroes of Bitcoin who unfortunately passed away. If anyone's interested in going down that rabbit hole, you can find some of his writings online, and also you can check out his Twitter profile, which is I go back and I read through his tweets every now and then because there aren't that many, and it's a really interesting and albeit very sad kind of retrospective looking back at some of the early days of Bitcoin, but it's definitely worth doing if you're going down the Bitcoin history rabbit hole. Anyway, Ephraim, welcome up. Tell us one thing about yourself if you'd like, and let us know your Bitcoin question.
Excellent. Thank you for having me up here. I own a lot of Bitcoin, but my only question is, since there's a little bit of circulation going down, and if these hedge funds are coming in and buying out so much, once that circulation runs out, what happens to the Bitcoin? Thank you.
People talk about this a lot, about there being like a squeeze and a liquidity crisis, and I don't really buy that because I think there will always be someone willing to sell at a certain price and someone who's willing to buy at a higher price, and I don't think that's really an issue. I think it will drive prices up, but I don't think we're going to ever see a moment where there's no Bitcoin to buy necessarily. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in on this.
There's always going to be someone willing to sell. Just may be at a price much higher than here.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mentioned this a little while ago, but that's what a price is. The price of anything is the equilibrium where somebody is willing to sell and somebody's willing to buy. That's what the current price of Bitcoin is. That's what the future price is going to be. That's the definition of a price, is where there's the asset exists. There will be 21 million Bitcoins. People will hold them, and other people will have other assets. And at some point, the thing about a Bitcoin is, as great as they are, you can't eat them and you can't live in them. So as long as there's people hold Bitcoins, they're going to need things to eat and places to live. So they're going to at some point want to trade, and where they're willing to trade, there's going to be that price. So Bitcoins will always trade in relation to some other asset, whether it's fiat currency or whether it's just the price of Bitcoin, of how much Bitcoin is a house worth, or something like that. How many sats is a bottle of Coke worth?
Yeah, I think I would add to that too, that if it's still at a store of value stage, then price discovery could also have a function of greed associated to it, where even if someone doesn't need to buy food or live in a house, there's going to be a certain price that they want to sell. Or not everyone, but some people will have a certain price that they want to sell, which will also drive price discovery just at a much higher price at times. But to Rabbi's point, eventually people are going to sell for survival needs. So Bitcoin will always have a market.
Thank you so much. I'll go back down to the audience.
Awesome. Thank you, Ephraim. That was a great question. All right. Let's see who we've got. Actually, I don't want to pick someone. Amanda, are you still with us? Will you pick someone?
I am here. Last time I had to pick 3 people, so let's try. Let's see how this works out. Let's go with again, Stuart. You are here. Hi, Stuart.
Hey everybody.
Nice laser eyes, Stuart. Big fan.
Oh, thank you. So I'm new to all of this as of about January. Own some stuff on Robinhood, and I'm just like, you know what, screw this. I'm buying through Swan now, and so now I own it, and I got my first hardware wallet. I got my Kobo, and so my question is I've been exporting the Bitcoin to my Blue Wallet. I've got my Kobo now synced with my Blue Wallet. Would you suggest me kind of still consolidating into the original Blue Wallet that I set up, or would it be beneficial to switch everything over and put it all into cold storage in my hardware wallet? And then if I do need to spend any of it for some reason, then just to transfer the amount I need over to the hot wallet, if you will.
Could you just clarify what you mean that you exported from your Kobo wallet to the Blue Wallet?
Oh, so I synced up the Blue Wallet
key?
to I synced up the Blue Wallet to be linked into my Kobo wallet to authorize it as the signature. Am I saying all that correctly? I watched BTC sessions set up stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think that meaning the keys of your Kobo wallet aren't on the Blue Wallet on the phone.
Correct.
It sounds like the Blue Wallet is a watch-only wallet. Like you can look at your balance.
That's correct.
It's watching.
That's
yeah,
absolutely correct, Brecky. Thank you.
Okay, so just to I just wanted to I thought that's what you meant, so I just wanted to check that out. So you are basically like viewing the balance of your Kobo, of your hardware wallet, of your cold storage wallet. You can view it on your phone, and you're asking, like, should you have everything in cold storage? I think that almost all Bitcoin. I'm not spending it. Do you have much need? Do you perceive yourself having much need for spending Bitcoin in the near future?
I don't. I want to try to save it all
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I always have, a few $100 or something like that. I mean it grows. It started as like 150 and now it's, a little bit more than that. So it's always fun to have like basically pocket change on on a hot wallet, like on your phone, that you could literally spend if you ever need it. Like let's say you want to donate something, you're just sitting at your computer, you can pick out your phone and scan a QR code, or if you for some reason go somewhere, it's a fun thing to do. It's a good idea to have some enlightening also, some spending money if it just for fun. It's not That's not really the use case. That just is like your own entertainment. That's not the main reason that you have it. I bet Dan also has some commentary on that. So like, it's a fun thing to do. I like to do it, but for the majority, like overwhelming majority, you don't need to have that as cash in your wallet, in your heart, in your hot wallet on your phone, ready to spend. It, it's just not necessary. So just a little bit. That's my feeling. Some people like to spend Bitcoin, but I think of it mostly as like a novelty. Usually it costs more if you're doing it on chain. Um, you know, Usually it's takes more effort. I just like to, buy and hold, but have no more than a few $100. That's my personal view, but you might have different. Other people might
There's
have
a
different.
I can't remember. I don't know who said it first, but somebody was saying that for a hot wallet on your phone, like it's probably best to only keep what you would keep in like a normal like fiat wallet, right? Like if you're only comfortable walking around with $100, or $200, few $100, whatever, then like don't have any more than that on your phone. It's just even if it would be very hard for someone to get it or steal it, whatever. There's just no need. Personally, I do like to spend Bitcoin when I can, but these days I'm using Strike, so I'm essentially it converts fiat to Bitcoin for me, and there's no taxable event, and so I just do that. Or I have Lightning wallets that I play with. I use for gaming or supporting merchants, but I never touch my HODL stack.
Yeah, and I think,
Cool.
yeah, I mean, just essentially, like, it's just like, think about it like cash, right? Like, you can walk around on the street with $1,000 in your pocket, but it's like, well, why do you need to do that? If you want to go spend your Bitcoin and you really, really, really want to, you're free to go do what you like with it. But you shouldn't carry around more money than you need to, unless you actually need to go use it.
Got it. And then, so Brecky, I have a question, Swan related. So I should go in and change where that money is being transferred to then, and change that to the Kobo vault and not the original one I had set up through the Blue Wallet. Is that correct?
I think in terms of like what's most efficient, probably like if you're buying a sizable amount each week or month or whatever it is, it's better to save on transaction fees and send that to your cold storage. And then if you ever need to transfer some of that out, you can always do so. Or you can always change the address in Swan. So if like you decide that you want to oh, I need a few $100 worth of Bitcoin in my wallet, for that week, you can just go ahead and, divert it and then change back to the other address at a later time. So,
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate everything.
thank you, Stuart. All right, we're going to send you back down to the other mods. I'm coming up on my time here, but we are streaming, so I'm happy to keep the stream going to YouTube. But I've got to go. I've got a very young puppy I've got to go feed and take care of. Don't know how long you all have to be answering questions. I just wanted to kind of gauge your thinking.
I'm gonna hop out. It was great chatting
Yeah.
with everybody. So cool. Thanks for having me on, and check you guys later.
No worries. All right. I
I
think
gotta hop out as well.
no worries.
Looks like you're losing us, Brecky.
I gave you the out, and they're taking it. All right, folks. To everyone who joined us tonight, I know there are so many hands raised, and I'm sorry we couldn't get to everyone, but hopefully you learned a great deal from what was being asked and what was said. We do this every Monday, and we also do this on Thursdays. We have a rotating cast of amazing moderators who give their time and their knowledge. We're very grateful to them. If you're new to Cafe Bitcoin, join the club. Click on the Cafe Bitcoin icon at the top left. You'll get notified of all these things. You can also find our schedule at cafebitcoin.club. There's a bunch of great free beginner resources there, links to documentaries, links to podcasts and books. That free book I mentioned is there as well, Inventing Bitcoin. And just look for the Cafe Bitcoin rooms and hop in there, and hopefully you learn a bunch about Bitcoin and join this amazing revolution that we are all a part of. Any closing thoughts or words from the mods? Bobo, actually, can I impose on you? Can you give us can you tell everyone about Sunday Satoshi service and give us a very brief sermon?
I would love to. The word of Satoshi is a very powerful thing, and every Sunday at around 10:30 Eastern, my brother John, the head deacon, has a clubhouse room called Satoshi Sunday Service. I think it's sponsored by Lolly too, but it's a really good place for you to come. Bring your friends. If you have anybody that's still buying crypto or is trying to trade but they don't really want to, you can bring them in. They can confess their sins and they can be saved by Satoshi himself. I also have a non-denominational side of it because I like to praise Satoshi in my own different way, a Rastafarian way. So if you want to hear that, come on through, and you can, and it's a lot of fun, And we also help you with small questions if you want. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. And Brecky, you should come too. I haven't heard your testimony yet, so yeah, maybe I missed it the last time. But
I usually pop in for about 30 minutes or so, and I do my version. I take Bible verses and I rewrite them in a Bitcoin way and have a little fun. We must be missing each other.
Yeah, but I'll give you guys a little preview. It's like I usually use a little bit of the Rastafarian tone about it and put my Jamaican accent on. So I could say, emancipate yourself from financial slavery. None but ourselves can free our wallets. Jarasta Satoshi shall save us all. Amen. Hallelujah. Stack sats.
Amen. Hallelujah. All right, everybody. Amanda, any closing words before we take off for tonight?
No, I love it. Maybe stats take whom. That's my little Catholic plug there. So,
Love it.
See y'all soon.
Oh wait, I'll do one. I'll do one from the Jewish side of things. There's a great quote. I forget. Oh, the rabbi left. Oh well. Anyway, he knows this one. There's a great quote from the Talmud, I think, and it's in Schindler's List. And the quote goes, save one person and save one life and save the world. And I like to think of it where, if you convince one person to buy Bitcoin, to go down this journey, to free their minds and their wallets, as Dredd says, you can save the world. So go home, tell one person about Bitcoin, tell one friend. They might think you're crazy, but eventually they won't. Eventually they'll be on our side of these things. Anyway. All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. This has been Beginner Bitcoin Q&A. If you'd like to go back and listen to the stream and hear the answers all over again, or do you just like the sound of my voice? That's okay too. You can go to the Swan Bitcoin YouTube page, which is just youtube.com/Swan Signal, and we have a whole playlist of Cafe Bitcoin streams there, including prior Q&As. So if you are not all Q&A'd out and you want to listen to some more questions, you can definitely go there and check it out. And we will be here again on Thursday and back again next Monday. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Brecky.
Thanks.